So, you know that world of filters and followers, right? Where your image can feel, well, like a product for sale? What does it even mean to reclaim your identity in a world like that? Well, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating story. Why some American women are turning to Islam and finding a sense of freedom where most people would never think to look.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into the problem, this idea of the commodified self online. Then we'll look at this kind of surprising path some women are taking, choosing Islam. We'll get into the role of the hijab, the theology behind it, and of course, the real-world challenges that come with it. And we'll wrap up by seeing how these women are building a brand new identity, one that's totally American and Muslim.
Okay, let's start somewhere we all know, probably a little too well, the world of social media. We're talking specifically about Instagram. Yeah, it's a place for connection for sure, but let's be real, it's also a place of insane pressure and, well, a whole lot of commerce.
You ever get that feeling that you're just performing online? Like you're putting on a show? Yeah, that feeling has a name. It's called commodification. It's basically when your life, your body, your whole identity starts getting treated like a product that can be marketed and sold. And on a platform like Instagram, that's literally the entire game. I mean, just think about your own Instagram feed for a second. How much of what you see is actually an ad? It's a lot, right? And this number kind of proves it. A whopping 71% of US businesses are on Instagram. That line between just connecting with friends and being sold something, it's pretty much gone. We're not just scrolling anymore. We are constantly being marketed to.
And it's not just about selling you, a new pair of jeans. It's about selling an ideal, a perfect life, a perfect body. And that ideal, it's taking a serious toll. Researchers have found a straight-up link between all those perfect idealized bodies we see online and a real rise in depression, anxiety, and just feeling bad about your own body, especially for young women.
So when you're stuck in this environment of constant performance, where it feels like your value is all about how you look, it makes you wonder, right? How do you push back? If you feel like you've been turned into a product, how in the world do you get your sense of self back? Okay, so how do you escape that constant pressure? Well, for some women, the answer is pretty radical. It's not just about deleting the app. No, they're finding a whole new way of being, and they're finding it in Islam. I know, probably not what you were expecting.
Just listen to this woman, a convert from Kansas. She said she felt ashamed, always trying to fit the mold of American society. For her, Islam wasn't just about finding a new faith. It was like finding a refuge from a world that constantly told her she wasn't good enough.
So what's the pull? Why convert? Well, for some, it's about looking for a faith that feels more authentic. For others, it's this attraction to an idea of women's rights within Islam that really speaks to them. But at the end of the day, for all of them, it's a very deliberate choice. A choice to step away from one world and start building another. All right, so a huge piece of this new identity for a lot of these women is the decision to wear the hijab. Now, here in the West, we often see it as a symbol of oppression, right? But for these converts, it can mean the complete and total opposite.
Think about that for a second. In our culture, that is a radical idea. The way they see it, the hijab isn't a cage, it's more like a shield. It's their way of telling the world, hey, look at me, not just my body. Judge me for my mind, for my character, not for my appearance.
I mean, that is a powerful act of defiance. By choosing to cover, these women feel like they're taking back control. They're basically saying no to being treated like objects for consumption, especially in a world that's always screaming at them that their only value is their sex appeal. So, you see, the hijab is so much more than just a piece of cloth. It's a message, it's a statement about privacy, a demand for dignity, and a powerful symbol of an identity they've chosen for themselves.
In this whole modern experience, this idea of pushing back against cultural pressures, it's not something they just invented. It's actually deeply rooted in centuries of religious interpretation. It all comes back to a core ethic of modesty.
So, this isn't just some new 21st century feminist take. It's grounded in centuries of Islamic tradition. When you look at texts like the Tafsir al-Munir, they explain that modesty is about way more than just your clothes. It's about protecting your honor and really about developing a sense of inner piety.
The guidelines are pretty straightforward. Wear clothes that don't draw attention to the shape of your body. The whole point is to be seen for who you are, not what you look like. It's seen as a form of protection, not just from being objectified, but from a culture that's constantly trying to reduce you to just your physical body.
But, and this is a big but, choosing to do this in a Western society is, well,
It's not simple. It's like you step out of one kind of judgment, only to step right into another. You have to navigate this really complex web of how people see you. You know that feeling of being looked at, but not actually seen? Well, there's a term for that, the male gaze. It's this idea that women are always being judged based on their appearance, their bodies, their sex appeal. And that's the exact thing these women are trying to get away from.
The thing is, when they reject that sexualizing Western gaze, they find themselves under a totally different kind of scrutiny, the Occidental gaze. So one gaze objectifies their body, right? But this other gaze objectifies their veil. It sees the hijab not as a choice, but as a symbol of oppression, of having no freedom. It's like they escape one box just to get shoved into another one.
So what do you do? How do you deal with these intense, conflicting pressures from all sides? Well, what these women are doing is pretty amazing. They're not just picking one culture over the other. Instead, they're forging a totally new, hybrid identity. This isn't a choice between being American or being Muslim. They're saying, I can be both. They are actively creating a new identity that embraces both sides of who they are. They're weaving their faith right into the fabric of their American lives and, in doing so, creating something brand new and completely their own.
You could call it a third space, a place where they can be American and Muslim without having to apologize for either. They're pushing back against stereotypes from really all directions, and by doing that, they're clearing a new path for themselves.
So this whole journey we've talked about, from pushing back against being a product online, to navigating all these different ways people look at you, it leaves us with a really big question. In a world that is always demanding that we perform, that we put our identity on display for everyone else, what does it actually mean to be free? To be truly free in how we show up in the world?